Welcome to Desert Island Tims. My guest today is a man who has never been afraid to put his neck on the line for the ordinary person. Tommy Sheridan, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I'm fine, Billy. Yep, it's a pleasure to be here. As usual, I got lost, but you managed to help me out, so we've made it.
Good stuff. Right, what was life like for you growing up?
Billy, life was fantastic. I was born in Govan, moved when I was 2 years of age, so my memories of Govan are very slight as a kid, although my grannies and all that stayed there and I visited often. But Pollock's where I was brought up, big housing scheme, south side of Glasgow. Loads of flat roof tenements. I had the privilege of staying in the top flat, a 4-storey tenement, and of course tenements would be great if we had a better climate. And they wouldn't gather the rain the way they used to gather them, and the rain then turned into dampness, and before you know it your windies were soaking, your clays were stinking, and all the types of things that afflicted us. They used to call it condensation when the council was trying to avoid paying any compensation, but and then it was a paraffin heater. Oh, you need to stop using the paraffin heaters, but eventually we won a lot of claims, and people got a wee bit of compensation. They're ill designed houses, and thankfully we're doing away with the flat roofs. But despite all of that, Billy, my memories of a kid growing up in Potter, all positive, because I had loads of mates. There was plenty of space. You know, the thing about Pollock, it had lots of green areas, big football park called Bonnyholm Football Park, just a couple of 100 yards away, and although it was a tenement and although we didn't have much, we were on the one boat. You know, in those days you didn't really know much about like poverty and all that, because we all had nothing. You know, and a holiday to us was Irvine or Millport. I remember getting taken to Butlins in Ayr, and it was, hey, geez, this was the bee's knees. This was marvellous. I hadn't been on a plane till I was 16 years of age, but as I say, we were all in the one boat and we all had a great time. And it was those days, Billy, where you left the house during the summer holidays back at 9 in the morning, and your mum never seen you till after 6 at night, and sometimes she never seen you till later than that, because you would go to one of your mates' houses to get your dinner, and the doors were always left open, and you were in and out of everybody's houses. You were getting the pieces, getting the Alpine ginger. It was brilliant. It was just one of the periods of life where there wasn't a care in the world. I remember one wee instant that sticks in my mind was me greeting the face off my ma one birthday. I can't remember what birthday it was. It must have been about 10th or 11th birthday, and I was dying for a bike, but it had to be a particular bike. It had to be a chopper, because the choppers were the bee's knees. They were really cool. So here, my ma and dad, my dad worked in a factory all his life, Rolls Royce factory. My ma worked in pubs, so they were low paid workers, and therefore they didn't have much. But here she put in extra shifts, and she scrimped and saved, got a couple of Provi loans, and managed to get me this purple chopper. And of course I was over the moon. I got it at first. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Going about the streets of Pollock thinking I was the king of the road and all that, and then bang, reality set in, carrying a chopper up 4 flights of stairs. Oh, hey, absolutely impossible. I grew to hate that bike, because I just didn't want to take it out anymore, because once I got up at the veranda, my legs were all scraped, my horns were all dirty, and I could hardly carry the bloody thing. So for that point of view, it's a wee example of sometimes be careful what you wish for. But no, nothing but happy memories, loads of mates, playing football regularly, being out and about, on the rafts on the river cart, even swimming in the river cart. I look at it now and I think, for God's sake, how could you swim in that? But hey, we had no fear in the days. We just used to jump in. And the wee song that sort of helps sum up that wee early childhood, and it may be controversial actually, given some of the stuff that's getting talked about just now, but the wee song that sums up that period is Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris. And you know, I found that song, and obviously I can articulate it now a bit better than I could then, but I found that song awful uplifting, because it was like solidarity. It was like no leaving your mate on his own, sticking together. You listen to the lyrics of that wee song, that's what it's about, innit? It's you don't leave your mate by the wayside. You stick in, and of course when they were kids, one mate helped the other mate out, and then when they're older, the other mate returns the favour. And that, to me, that's what life's like, is sticking together, working class people sticking together, friends sticking together, showing a bit of loyalty, a bit of social solidarity, and of course There is a bit of controversy surrounding Rolf Harris just now. I don't want to believe any of the accusations against him. I hope they're not true. I think they're not true, because even though he's not everybody's cup of tea, I don't think he's guilty of what he's been accused of, but time will tell. But it's still a song that sort of sums up that wee period.
And this is
Two Little Boys.
That was Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris. What took you into politics?
That's an interesting question, Bill, and I don't think it's a straightforward answer. My mum was always involved with the trade union movement as I was growing up. She, as I said earlier, she worked in pubs most of her life, and through her work in the pub she started to get involved in trying to organise bar staff. And I'm talking about the 70s at this time, and it was notoriously difficult to organise bar staff because it was a transitory workforce. There was a lot of people took part-time jobs, summertime jobs, and it was very, very difficult to organise that staff. And none of the breweries recognised trade unions in those days. However, my mum felt it was wrong that some of the lassies were getting told to work on to clear up the bars after the bar's been shut, having to try and get taxis home late at night when it was dangerous and expensive, weren't they getting paid for breaks, they weren't they getting allocated any proper breaks, so they were on their feet all night. And when you're in a busy bar, Mum used to work in places like the Bay Horse, the Argosy, Grant Arms. She started saying, no, the lassies in particular, it was mostly women, deserve proper recognition, proper breaks, payment for taxis home, overtime payments, all that type of thing. And the breweries were going mental. Tennant Caledonia and the like were saying no way, if you don't want it, we'll just get somebody else. So she got involved with the Transport and General Workers Union. She became a steward. She started to organise the staff, and sometime in the mid-70s she was actually involved in the first ever strike of bar staff for recognition. And I always remember it was a famous event, actually, because the tenants, Caledonian breweries and others, said, do what you want, there's no way a strike will affect us. If one pub's closed, the punters will just go to another pub. And of course there is an element of truth in that. However, what the brewers didn't take into account was that my ma and the other staff didn't picket any pubs. What they did is they picketed the breweries.
Right.
And in those days the lorry drivers were all in the union, and of course they wouldn't cross a picket line. They won that strike within 2 days. They won recognition for the bar staff, and of course improved their wages and conditions and everything else. But it showed, even in those early days, it showed my ma's bottle. She's a very courageous woman, standing up to the brewers who are very powerful. She then went on to get involved with what was called the battered wives movement in those days, and she got the union to back the battered wives movement and pay for a refuge. It's now called Women's Aid. So my mum was always somebody that was political, but she does remind me, as a kid, I used to say to her, I hate the unions because you're always away at meetings.
Right.
And you know, that's the way you are as a kid. In fact, wee Gabrielle, my own wee daughter, says that to me now. Do you need to go to another bedroom tax meeting, Daddy? You're never in, type of thing. So it's I understand what she's going through, because I went through the same thing. And I used to always say to my mummy that I was going to buy her a taxi when I grew up, because she was always waiting in a taxi to take her from A to B, you know. I would say that it was my mum that really got me into politics at that stage, and in relation to how I felt and my own wee sort of a thought process. Obviously I couldn't properly articulate it at that age, although in modern studies classes I'm told whenever I go to any of these reunions, I'm told I was always arguing for the underdog, and I was always arguing the Labour case, as you did as a kid in those days when Labour used to be Labour. And I think the song that fits that period most appropriate for me is what I think is a socialist anthem, which is John Lennon's Imagine, which was the first waltz at my wedding as well. I just love it. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I love the bit where he says, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And at the end of the day, you know, if we all stop dreaming, then what a horrible existence we would have. I think we've all got to keep our dreams, and if we don't fight for them, we'll never get them. The song is Imagine by John Lennon.
Who were your influences and your heroes?
Do you know, Billy, there are a lot of heroes I've got, political heroes. I'm wearing one in my t-shirt just now, Fidel Castro, who was one of the leaders along with Che Guevara of the 1959 revolution in Cuba against the military dictator Batista. And they still are trying to build a socialist country in Cuba. Very, very difficult when they're surrounded by a very hostile capitalist world. But they have survived, and they have built a fantastic health service, a fantastic education system, and I've had the privilege of visiting the island 5 times, and I can tell you the people are the best you'll ever meet, and have a different set of values to the values you often have and encounter in Europe. Very friendly, very family orientated, very people orientated. So Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, they're 2 heroes right away. You've got to look at the Venezuelan revolution and how they tried to almost come to the aid of Cuba. Unfortunately, Hugo Chavez has died at an early age, but I had the privilege of meeting Hugo Chavez and shaking his hand when I visited Venezuela in 2003 to witness for myself the type of changes that they were trying to bring in, and I thought it was fabulous that they were standing up to imperialism and standing up to American bullying and in that sector of the world. So again, he would come into the rank of being a hero. I look at the likes of Rosa Parks, who is someone that's maybe no well known, but she's a seamstress who is tired coming home from her work one night and takes a seat in a bus and is told by the driver to get up to give it to a white person because it was for whites only, and she said no. She was tired, and she was tired of giving in. She ended up being arrested and jailed, but from that the Montgomery bus boycott was spawned, and before you know it, you had a massive civil rights movement on your hands. And therefore the actions of a wee working class woman fighting against injustice because she was tired of giving in sparked a whole change in life. So Rosa Parks is a heroine. I look at Tony Benn. Some people say, oh, he's born into wealth and all the rest of it, and that's true, he was. However, it doesn't mean that he's not a very articulate fighter for the poor and the oppressed, and sticks up for ordinary people, and I very much admire him. So he would come into that category as well. There are others who are probably, will come into the category. The one that inspires me most is John McClane, somebody who was born just a few days ago in 1879, died in 1923, only 44 years of age, unfortunately. John McClane was born in Pollokshaws, which is obviously just up the road for Pollock, where I was brought up, and was self-taught, went on to become a teacher and a revolutionary, and opposed the First World War, tried to build the socialist movement in those interwar periods, and was jailed 5 times for his troubles. The state tried to break him. They kept him in Peterhead and poisoned his food, but this man became the first official emissary for Russia after the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. This wee guy from Glasgow. And most people don't know who John McClane is. Most people think John McClane's the guy out of the Die Hard movies. That's the reality, which is sad, because our rich Scottish history of rebellion is often hidden from us, and I just wish people would read books like The Rapids of Revolution or Nan Moulton's book simply called John McClane, and you will then delve into a very, very rich history that unfortunately isn't taught in our schools, and I wish it was. And he kept me going. My first jail sentence was way back in 1992, when I had been involved in trying to prevent a poll tax warrant sale from taking place. A wee single parent in Greenock had our house broken into by the sheriff officers. They took a display cabinet, a coffee table and a telly, and they were going to sell them to pay off this woman's poll tax. The woman was in tears and was on the phone saying they're going to sell that a warrant sale. They've went in, they've taken the stuff. And we had a few days to organise. We organised Turnbull Street in Glasgow, 1st of October 1991, and we organised several hundred people to be there. And we stopped the warrant sale. The warrant sale was called off and the woman got her stuff back. It was a great victory. But I'd been served with a notice the day before the warrant sale. It was called an interim interdict, and it was to ban me from being there at Turnbull Street. So I took the interdict along to the warrant sale, and I ripped it up in front of the crowd and said there's no way we're going to be impeded from defending working class people who can't afford to pay the poll tax. It turned out to be quite an expensive wee bit of paper for me. All I did was rip a bit of paper and I got 6 months in jail for it, you know. And that started in March of 92. I ended up serving 4 months of that in Saughton Prison in Edinburgh. But you know, The Rapids of Revolution was one of the books that my big pal Bob Wiley had sent me in, and you read that and you just realise that you're only a pygmy. You're only a political pygmy when you compare yourself to the giants that have walked before, and the conditions that they've been in. And the song that sort of sums up that period for me and also continues to inspire me today. It's a song that I can't listen to without the wee hairs in the back of my neck standing up, is Labby Sifry, Something Inside So Strong.
What are your earliest memories of going to Celtic Park, Tommy?
Do you know, my earliest memories of going to Parkhead is probably carbon monoxide. I was thinking about this just the other night in anticipation of the wee interview with you, and I don't know if you remember, we all used to park, trying to remember the street, but all the big buses, we used to go in the St Brendan's Celtic supporters bus that came from Linwood but picked us up at the Argosy on Paisley Road West, and it was my dad and my uncle Jim used to take us on the bus, and the bus was great, the journey was always great, selling the sweepstakes and all the rest of it, the wee cards, the wee scratch cards for funds, and they were always good times. But when we stopped in this big street, and I can't remember the name of the street, but all the buses were there. Mm-hmm. But of course, my memory is of all the buses had their engines on, mm-hmm. and as you were walking up towards the ground, you could hardly breathe. It was just this cloud of carbon monoxide that you breathed in, and that, for years that was my memory of going to the football, was the carbon monoxide. But I was privileged, Billy. I was going to see Celtic in the days of Bobby Lennox, Jim Brogan with the famous shots pulled right up high, players like Vic Davidson, Kenny Dalglish, Billy McNeil. I mean, one of my best memories actually wasn't a Parkhead game, it was a Hampden game. Mm-hmm. And it was the Celtic 6-1 against Hibs when wee Dixie Dean scored the hat-trick and done the wee somersault on his walkies. Dixie was one of my favourite players. He was just a marvellous scorer of goals, and I remember that game in particular because not only did, if my memory serves me right, Hibs scored first in that game, and then Big Billy scored with a header, I think, to get us back in it, but we had to get moved from the end we were in. There was so many there, and I can remember taking on my dad's shoulders down onto the gravel track and get moved to a different part of the ground. If I can remember rightly, I think the crowd was 106,000. I might stand corrected on that. It was certainly a six-figure sum that turned up to that game, and the reason that's significant is it's the last time there was six-figure sum at Hampden. So I loved that. And Parkhead, I mean, we used to go to the Celtic end. When I became a wee bit older and went to the games myself, I always went to number 7 in the jungle. That was where all the Pollock boys used to congregate. Loads of memories, isn't there? But the best memory of all has got to be the 4-2 game that won us the league, the midweek game. Murdo McLeod scored a screamer. We were getting beat 2-1. Johnny Doyle gets sent off. It looked as though we were doomed, and whoever won that game won the league. And we won that game, and of course that began the famous chant, 10 men won the league, rah, 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 rah. And then I remember, I think it may have been the same season or the next season, but we won a semi-final at Love Street, and Johnny Doyle gets sent off again. We Johnny used to always get sent off, God love him. But we won the semi-final in Love Street, and of course the chant went up, 10 men done it again, la, 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 la. So those were fantastic memories, and I read a lot of the social media comments nowadays. For instance, we've just had a poor result against Cara Candy or whatever way you want to pronounced them, and we've got a big game coming up, and I'm confident we'll overturn it. I'm confident we'll go through the Champions League. But you know, I read some of the comments after a poor result, and I think to myself, we sing songs like we're Celtic supporters, faithful through and through. We sing songs like that, and then after one game or a few games, it's we want to sack the manager and all the rest of it, and you think, oh come on, get a grip. At the end of the day, being a Celtic supporter isn't about 1 season, 2 seasons or 3 seasons. It's about your life. And I think as a Celtic supporter, deep down, if you're a Celtic supporter when you're a kid, you're a Celtic supporter for life.
Yeah.
And that's why the song that probably sums it up best for me is Rod Stewart's You're in My Heart.
What irritates you?
Do you know, that's a question that you could probably spend a few hours talking about, because there are loads of things that irritate you, isn't there? And we all have our wee foibles and wee intricacies that irritate us more than others. I think the lack of self-belief, sometimes the lack of fight that people have got. I look around me at what this government is doing just now, for instance, these condemn bunch of Tory toffs and their Lib Dem hangers on. You look at a cabinet there, I think there's 29 members of that cabinet, and something like 20 of them are personal millionaires, and you say to yourself, how unfair is it? How unrepresentative is it? They're introducing policies that are slashing the welfare state. They're introducing this bedroom tax, which is a poverty-seeking missile, attacks the poor. You know, because you need to be poor to get housing benefit. The poor tend to live in council or housing association houses. This bedroom tax attacks those people. So it's horrible what goes on. But what upsets me, what irritates me, is the attitude of a lot of people. There's nothing you can do. You know, they shrug their shoulders, their heads are down. Doesn't matter, son, there's nothing you can do. And I experienced that at the start of the poll tax campaign. People said there's nothing you can do. And by the way, they might have had a wee bit more legitimacy for their argument then, because this was Thatcher we were fighting during the poll tax. This was the woman that had taken on the miners, taken on the nurses, the steel workers. She'd taken on Galtieri. According to her, it was single-handed the way she went on about it. So when people were saying, oh, you know, it's the Iron Lady, there's nothing you can do, well, okay, maybe they had a point, but we fought the poll tax. And I say, in any fight on your life, there's no guarantee of victory, never a guarantee of victory. But there is a guarantee that you'll never win if you don't fight. And that's what we have to try and get over to people. And we fought the poll tax, and we melted down the Iron Lady, and we sent her after the political knacker's yard where she belonged, and we managed to break a piece of legislation. And okay, some people say, well, you know, the council tax wasn't much better, and you know, they would have a point. Maybe our failing in the poll tax campaign was we never fought for an alternative to it. We just fought against the poll tax. We never fought for an alternative. So you live and learn. But that was a famous victory that was won by working class people the length and breadth of Scotland, England and Wales. And now we've got another battle in relation to the bedroom tax. And I appeal to people to show a bit of bottle, a bit of courage, to stand up and be counted. The only thing that can frighten the victims of the bedroom tax is councils or housing associations trying to evict them because they can't afford to pay it. Well, are we going to stand by as communities and allow the poor to be evicted for the crime of being poor? I hope not. I hope we are going to stand up and be counted, and we're going to break this bedroom tax the way we broke the poll tax. And by the way, bear in mind, it was the Iron Lady we were fighting with the poll tax. It's the Marshmallow Man we're fighting in relation to the bedroom tax. Cameron is nae Thatcher, even though he would like to be one. So from my point of view, I would appeal to people to stand up and be counted. And what irritates me is this lack of belief and this lack of fight. I think we should show a wee bit of dignity. Stand up and be counted. And that's why my song that sums up my thoughts on this matter is, of course, Deacon Blues, Dignity.
How do you relax?
Billy, I like to relax by getting involved in sporting activities. I love sport generally, whether it be football, I'm now playing for the mighty Blantyre Celtic, and we've won our first 2 league games, so hopefully we can win the Seniors League. Over 35s, I'm well over 35 I have to say, but it was the nearest I could get to an age group that I could at least compete with. So I'm enjoying turning out for Blantyre Celtic. I play badminton, I play tennis, I play squash, I do a wee bit of boxing. I just love sport, and that's my way of unwinding and relaxing. And of course it's tough when you're playing or when you're training, but you get the benefits afterwards when you've got a bit more energy, and again when you go and play football and you can actually last the 90 minutes when some other boys similar ages can't. So I relax that way, but also relax by having groups of friends round to the house, and we visit other houses and we just have nice wee meals and good chats about the old times, and we have a right good laugh, and we often have we sing songs, and there's one song which has become my party piece over the years. All my mates say it's because I think it sums me up, and it probably does. It reminds me of my university days as well, when I was a wee kid wet behind the ears, going to Stirling University, and my first year there was an occupation of the library. It was against cuts in the university's budget, and I was right in there with both feet supporting the occupation, and there was a song that played overnight during the occupation. Everybody was sleeping in the sleeping bags and all the rest of it, and I thought, God, I love that song. I don't think I'd heard it before, and thereafter I learned the words of it, and it's my wee party piece now. And as I say, it probably sums me up. The fantastic Carly Simon, You're So Vain.
That was You're So Vain by Carly Simon. So what does the future hold for you?
It's an interesting question, Billy. There's a lot of legal issues that are outstanding just now. I've got various court cases that are running and are live, but they're taking ages to conclude. I've got an appeal against my criminal conviction, which I'm very confident is going to be successful, so that the conviction will be quashed, because it was an unsafe conviction based on perjured evidence and based on the denial of very crucial evidence to me that meant I couldn't mount my defence properly. And all of that will come out in the fullness of time, hopefully no more than 12 months, and with any luck within the 12 months. I then have an appeal outstanding against the News of the World, the now defunct News of the World. Can I say that again? The now defunct News of the World. I'm over the moon that I've outlived that particular rag, but I beat them in a libel case in 2006, and they were ordered to pay me £200,000. They still haven't paid a penny. There's an appeal outstanding, and I'm going to win that as well. I've got to laugh that the grounds of their appeal was that it was a perverse decision that the jury took to find in my favour. Well, I don't think anyone will think it's perverse now that we know exactly what the News of the World was. A criminal organisation that preyed on the vulnerable, distorted news, hacked people's phones, and lied about people. Well, that was the News of the World, and thankfully they're gone now. Only the sun to go, and hopefully that won't be too long. So I've got that one outstanding as well. I also have a phone hacking case that is live against the News of the World. They periodically and systematically hacked my phone, and we've got the evidence of that. So those are like 3 big court issues that are very significant to me, because it's very difficult for me to find proper employment just now. Who wants to employ a convicted perjurer? That is an obstacle. It's a handicap that I've got. So once I get that lifted, then I become much more employable. I may next month go back and do my law degree at Strathclyde University. That was interrupted. I'd started it, so I may go and do that. It's a question of money. It costs quite a bit to do the law degree, but I may go back and do that. If not this year, then certainly next. So those are issues which unfortunately out of my hands. That's the most frustrating part of it, Billy, that I don't control that particular destiny. I'm going to have success in those areas, and I'm going to win all of those cases. I'm confident of that, but I can't say when, and I can't drive them the way I would like to drive them forward. But I've got a good legal team on board. On a political front, the issue that is taking up most of my time now is the issue of the bedroom tax that I mentioned earlier. I'm speaking tonight in Dalkeith. I'm speaking on Thursday night in View Park in Uddingston. I'm then going to Stranraer at the weekend to speak at a demo in Stranraer on Saturday. So that takes up loads of time. I've done about 77 meetings since February, all over Scotland and some in London as well. I didn't want to necessarily become front line involved in that campaign, but the problem was people wanted me to speak, and sometimes you've got to step up to the plate. Well, it's alright saying you support something but then doing nothing about it. I think you've got to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and if you're going to be involved in something, you've got to be prepared to lead. So I've been involved in the Scottish Anti-Bedroom Tax Federation. I've been elected the chairman of that, and that takes up an awful lot of my time just now. But I do have to bear in mind that unfortunately I lost a lot of time with Gail and Gabrielle through the prison sentence that I was given. I was given a 3-year sentence, and I ended up spending a year in jail, and that was a long time away from two people whom I love immensely. So I have to be careful in terms of my balance of time, that I don't forget that I lost that time with them, and I want to make that up. And the one thing that is absolutely certain in relation to my future is that I'll be spending time with Gail and Gabrielle, and the song that has got fantastically powerful lyrics, which makes me almost cry every time I hear it, and it sums up everything I want to say to Gail, is from the Proclaimers. I want to spend my life with you.
Right, we've come to the part of the programme where I give you the complete works of the dandy and a copy of the Bible to take with you to your island. Would you like a copy of the Bible?
Do you know, it's probably an interesting wee book because it's full of stories. The problem is some people believe the stories. I don't. I'm an atheist, but I don't condemn anybody else who has a religion and practices a religion, as long as they don't try and force feed others, and as long as they have the tolerance of other people's religions, because to me it looks as though there's several gods out there, and who's to say whose God is the real God, if there is a God. So I don't in any way, shape or form condemn people for having religious beliefs, but please don't force feed me them, because it's not something that I believe in. But hey, if I was on a desert island and I had loads of time in my hand, I bet you there'd be some right interesting wee stories in the Bible.
Which other book would you take and why?
That's an interesting question again, and it's if you only had one single book to take. I mean, I don't read as much now as I used to, which is a bit of a fault. I blame the internet for that. You're too busy interacting with people on bloody Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it. You end up you're on that for hours, and you could have been reading a good book. However, probably the two that I would have to toss it up with would be either Heroes by John Pilger. It's a collection of stories about real people who have made a difference in life and who have helped to expose abuse of power in the highest places. And if anyone, particularly anyone that's interested in journalism, interested in investigative journalism, or interested in how power is abused in society, please get a hold of any books by John Pilger, but particularly Heroes. But it would be probably between that or The Rapids of Revolution, the book I mentioned earlier by John Maclean. Nan Milton, his daughter, wrote a fantastic book called John Maclean, which is about Maclean himself. But the beauty of The Rapids of Revolution is it's a collection of Maclean's writings and speeches, and I just find them totally and utterly inspirational. This is a man who in 1918, when he was accused of sedition for arguing against the First World War and arguing for workers to go and strike against the exploitation of the munitions factory owners, he stood in the dock in the Edinburgh High Court and did his own defence, conducted his own defence, and made a famous speech of how he stands there not as the accused but as the accuser of capitalism dripping in blood from head to foot. And then he went on to condemn war and how working class people were the fodder for capitalist wars. Now, he was given 5 years. He was released after a year because of popular pressure. How, think today, think of anyone being released from jail because of popular pressure. That's what happened to John McClane twice in his life. He was broken, let's be honest, but he was broken by a lot of his prison sentences because he was given hard time and his food was tampered with, he was poisoned. But Rapids of Revolution is the writings and speeches of my political hero in the shape of John McClane. So that's the book that I would probably take with me.
A luxury. Something to make your life a bit more bearable in Ireland. It can't be a mobile phone and it can't be a human being.
The luxury on my desert island would probably depend on the climate. Assuming that it wasn't sunny all year round, my luxury would need to be a wee sunbed. I've become well known for having the artificial tan. I started work at 17 in Dave Greenhill's health studio, and one of the perks of the job was a free sunbed, so I've been using them since I was 17. They're bad for you, by the way. Don't take this as an endorsement of sunbeds. They're bad for you. However, I'm not going to lie, I do like a wee sunbed. So assuming the wee desert island I'm on hasn't got all year sunshine, I would have to have a wee luxury of a sunbed.
Your final song?
The song that probably would keep me going through all the hard times. A song that my mum actually introduced it to me before it became a football anthem, because my mum used to always encourage me to watch all the old films, and she encouraged me to watch a film called Carousel. And a lot of listeners might not know this, but the song in question was written for the movie Carousel, and it's a fantastically uplifting movie about people going through tough times and fighting and sticking together and getting through tough times. And of course that's where the famous song Walk On actually became legendary and is now the anthem, not just of Parkhead but also of Merseyside as well, in terms of Anfield. And it's a song that I think is, you can't hear it without raising your sights and thinking of a better world and thinking of a better place where we all stick together and we all pull together, and therefore, Walk On, Jerry and the Pacemakers version of it is just fabulous, and I would certainly demand in my desert island that I had a copy of Walk On.
Tommy Sheridan, thank you very much for being a Desert Island Tim.
It's been a pleasure, Billy. Hopefully it's not been too boring for the listeners, but as I say to each and every one of them out there, don't let your heads get down, stand up and be counted, and let's fight for a better world together.